Hello, and welcome to another week of Light to My Path, our 2025 Bible reading plan. This week, we are reading 2 Corinthians 6 through 10. 2 Corinthians 6 through 10 is, chapters 1 through 5 is really packed full of, there's just so much to do, so much to talk about. 6 through 10, it's also packed, but it starts to become a little more difficult to track with what Paul is saying. And so I want to encourage you, if you didn't, watch or rewatch the Bible Project's summary video of 2 Corinthians. I think that will sort of help guide you as you go. But here's what I want to do. I want to focus us on a little section from chapter 8. And it's from Paul's encouragement about being generous. Part of the reason why he's writing 2 Corinthians is to encourage the Corinthians to continue to give towards this collection of money that will go back to help the poor. And probably what that means is the poor in Jerusalem. The Jerusalem church, which is where it all started, was, they were stricken with poverty. They had a lot of people to care for, and they didn't have a lot of money, and it was tough to have money, and so they were poor. And they were really helping others, but also just surviving themselves. And contrast that with places like Corinth, places like Galatia, Philippi. These were more wealthy, well-to-do churches, basically. And so Paul is it would mean a lot. Not just it would mean a lot, but it would signify something huge if you wealthy Gentile churches were helping the poor Jewish church. That would speak a message to the powers that be that we are one united church. That was something that was really big on Paul, not just for helping the poor, but for that message to be sent to the powers. But in chapter 8, just looking at verses 8 and beyond, what Paul says here about our generosity, I think is really important. He says, I do not say this as a command. And that's to say, you can't be guilted into being generous. You can't be told, be generous, right? Generosity is something that should spring up from within, right? This is what it says. He says, I don't say this as a command, but I am by mentioning the eagerness of others. I'm testing the genuineness of your love. And what I think he's getting at there is he's kind of tugging at the heartstrings of if you really confess that Jesus is Lord and believe that, put your money where your mouth is, basically. But the reason for our generosity, it's given to us in verse 9, and I think it's one of the most important verses for us to wrap our minds around. He writes, for you know the generous act of our Lord Jesus Christ, that though he was rich, right, he had everything. He was God in heaven, right? Though he was rich, yet for your sakes he became poor. This is Philippians 2, right? Downward mobility. He gave it all, became a slave, even death on a cross. For your sakes, he became poor, so that by his poverty, you might become rich. And he doesn't mean financially rich. He means by his death, we might have life. This, my friends, is the cornerstone of, it's the cornerstone of our faith, but it's also the cornerstone and really the wellspring, the head, the fount of our generosity. And so I want to encourage you to reflect on that and think about how you are being generous with your finances, with your lives, with your time, with your gifts, right? But then if you keep reading, it gets very practical. He's really encouraging them. He's kind of playing off their eagerness, right? And saying if you're really eager, give, do it, not beyond your means, but just make it so that people are basically equal. Paul says here, I don't mean that there should be relief for others and then hardship for you, but it is a question of equality between your present abundance and their need, their lack of abundance, so that their abundance may also supply your need in order that there may be equality. And here I think he probably means spiritual, right? You have material wealth and they don't, and so make that more equal. They have spiritual wealth and you don't, so they make that more equal. And then he quotes this thing, as it is written, the one who had much did not have too much, and the one who had little did not have too little. I don't think Paul would be a socialist, right? But Paul definitely looks at like financial inequality and says, look, that might be the way the world works, but in the church, among us, that simply is not an option. So yeah, anyway, this is a challenging week of reading. I would love for you to ask me questions, reflect, talk to me, email me, and check out that Bible Project video. All right, have a great week of reading.